Good evening, I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on NewsX as India deals the COVID pandemic with the COVID pandemic that has, of course, gripped us in the entire world. NewsX and Business World are bringing to you a very special panel today with industry veterans to discuss the future of India Inc. and several other industries amidst this crisis. As we open up our economy again, what are the big priorities for our country today, and has the government managed to effectively address them through their big financial stimulus package that has been announced for the last 5 days? Joining us a very special panel on the broadcast, Dr. Ramesh V. Penumaka, former IAS officer, is live with us. Rahul Pandit, MD and CEO, Hampstead Living, is live with us. Charu Malhotra, co-founder and MD, Primus Partners India, is also joining us live. Nilaya Verma, co-founder, Primus Partners India, also with us. Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief, Business World and Exchange for Media, joins us as well. Ashish Gupta, Consulting CEO of Faith, is live with us as well. We hope to be joined shortly by Vivek Nair, MD of Leela Hotel Ventures. Let me begin with Sagar Daryani, who's also joining the panel at this point of time, co-founder and CEO of Wow Momos. Mr. Daryani, welcome to the broadcast. Your first reaction, your initial reaction to the last 5 days, series of announcements by Ms. Sitharaman, the Finance Minister of India. What do you make of the financial stimulus?
I think for me it's been the Great India Laughter Challenge, at least for me and my industry, and I'll be very candid here. I've been a very big Narendra Modi fan, but I think the PMO has become more of a CMO as far as our industry and our sector is concerned. It's not the Prime Minister of India, it's the Chief Marketing Officer of India talking. When we heard of the 20 lakh crore package, we were excited. We wanted something to be announced for our sector, but I think we've been given a step-son treatment like it's been with our industry for the last couple of years. There is no package for the restaurant hospitality sector, as you all know. Our industry literally contributes to 10% of the GDP. We are one of the largest job seekers, job creators, and it's been really sad that there has been no unemployment takeover package. We've got no working capital loans. Most of us don't fall under MSME because we are not literally known as manufacturing. And even when they had to extend the MSME limits, we had heard of numbers like 250 crores. It was extended to 100 crores. So someone like me who has already surpassed that 100 crore top line number is not equivalent to be there. However, we are employing close to 2,000 people. We do contribute to a large part of the government's exchequer when it comes to paying taxes. And now when it is our time to get some benefits, when we are all struggling, it's literally not been there. We contribute so heavily to the ESIC, to the PF. The government could have just used that unoccupied, unutilized fund to come up with an unemployment takeover for our sector where, at least 50% of the salaries could have been contributed. Today, for me, having a salary payout of 4.5 crores, how do I pay my staff? I don't want to do job cuts. I am forced to do pay cuts, but I have to survive today to live tomorrow. So it is really, really difficult out there. And what I found to be very funny is that for us in our sector, the two most important costs are labor cost and rental cost. Now, for the real estate guys who are constructing properties out there, It has been declared as force.
Mr. Daryani, I'll come a bit later to what all is missing and what all now you expect. But what about the positives? What are the aspects so far that you've liked in this package, and what all is going right now for our economy? If we talk about India as a whole, what are the opportunities that we have now?
I personally feel that the MSMEs who would fit into the 100 crore package and with that investment of 10 crores would definitely benefit. It would have been more ideal had the loan not been limited to 20%, but I think that's still a positive move forward. How many do we have in that sector with 100 crore top line and a 10 crore cutoff with investment is again a big question mark because it's difficult to attain a 100 crore top line with only a 10 crore investment. It's not reality in most industries except for service industries. But yeah, those who do come into that fragment of sector will definitely benefit. But apart from that, honestly, I've read articles which say that the 20 lakh crore budget is literally a 1.5 lakh crore stimulus to the economy. The rest is just packages. So I think the government has become a very smart and a very good lender. That's all I have to say. Not very happy being candid here.
Okay, so you're not very pleased with the package that you've got so far. Okay, I'll come back to you in a bit of what then you expect now in the days ahead. But let me bring in Rahul Pandita. Rahul, welcome to the show as well. Your first reactions, what have you made of the package which has come your way from the government? The financial stimulus, the mammoth 20 lakh crore financial stimulus, which of course totals to 10% of our GDP. What all are you happy with? What all leaves? I'll just as I told Mr. Biyani earlier, that we'll come to, of course, what all we expect, what all more you expect a bit later, but what all is right, what all are you happy with so far, and what are the opportunities right now, even in this current pandemic for India Inc.? Rahul, are you able to hear me? Okay, I think yeah, you can go ahead now. I think, Rahul, we have you back. No, okay, Rahul has frozen there. I think we're having some technical trouble. We'll just get him back in a second. Let me bring in, if I can, let me bring in Ashish if I can then at this point. Ashish also with us, Ashish Gupta, Consulting CEO of Faith. Ashish Gupta, welcome. What is your first reaction to the government stimulus package? Your observations and what's the opportunity right now ahead for India Inc.?
Yeah, hi, Uday. Thank you very much for the question. First, I think we all understand that the government of India has a huge challenge in terms of handling the priority sector, the migrants, and also keeping us all safe. And we are very thankful to the government for doing that. And when it comes to the tourism industry, I think, and we'll come to that question later, I think we are all actually quite taken aback and very frankly shocked that the industry, which is supposed to contribute around 10% of the GDP and around 10 to 12% of the employment, I think we all had huge, we are all looking forward to a great partnership with the government and support. I think we're all quite taken aback from that.
Okay, so you're taken aback that the hotel, the tourism and the aviation industry has not got anything. Obviously, that's your disappointment. But what are the sectors then that you're happy with? The outlays that you're happy with, that you're pleased with? And what are the opportunities for India Inc. right now that we can capitalize on? Ashish.
I very frankly, I think when I speak for, since you come back to tourism, the tourism, travel and hospitality covers a lot of sectors, and as rightly said, we'll come back to it later. Again, repeating on the point that we understand, we all of us understand that the government of India has a huge challenge to handle the migrants, I think, and the laborers and the huge population which has to be supported. We are happy that the government is looking after them. But I think these are very unprecedented times, and despite the fact that there will always be a fiscal deficit challenge, we believe that there could possibly have been a lot more deep dive in each sector, and looking at the sum of parts of each sector. What are the problems in each sector, and what could be the real financial stimulus sector-wise, which could help the sector take care of their own employees, thereby helping the sector stand. So I think probably that has not yet been addressed, and in the 20 lakh crore stimulus, so as to say, and I think that is a very big area of opportunity, which I hope will be addressed going sector-wise. I think right now it covers the economy or the overall sentiment as a whole. I would really hope for us to see sector-wise stimulus, and obviously for us tourism, which has got multiple sub-sectors. Look at the sum total of the sector, help the industry.
Okay, I'm coming back to those expectations in just a second. I want to start out with the opportunities though. Let me go to Anurag Batra to help set things in context right now. I know, okay, some of you are not very happy with the stimulus, fair enough. We will get your expectations, and we will of course get your, what all you hope for now in the days ahead, because remember, obviously the stimulus is not the only help that the government has. We hopefully will get announcements in the days ahead as well. So I'll get to that in just a second, but Anurag Batra, let me get you in here to set things in context for us on what the main takeaways of the package were for you, what the big positives were. what should be the bullish points for industry right now, and also the opportunities right now for India Inc., sir? Because in times of adversity, we also need to look at opportunity and positivity. What are those according to you right now?
I'll come to what the industry expects. You have spoken to promoters, CEOs, entrepreneurs over the last 4 days, and I've got their reaction. But let me tell you the government's thinking on this. One, the government has just got started. I want to tell Sagar and everybody on the panel, Ashish, that the government has just got started. It's a start. It's not the end. Look at it as first installment, okay, of resetting, of reforming, of building a base. I know some of you, in a matter of speaking, are starving, are dying, so you need instant oxygen. And some of the sectors have got that, some of the sectors haven't got that. The fact that you are making representations through your associations, through your bodies, and I'm sure that could be the, installment 2, installment 3, it will come. Mr. Modi has talked about tourism, travel, hospitality, what is the scope of religious tourism, spiritual tourism, how there is so much India. So I'm sure, I know that at some stage soon it will come. Ideally, it should have been in the first installment. So first, I want to say to you that it is the first installment. Look at it as the first set of measures to get, and there are 5 salient points of that. One, if you look at the 6 budgets and you look at the first budget of Nirmala Sitharaman, it is about inclusive economy. So the people at the bottom of the pyramid, whether it's the agriculture sectors, farmers, laborers, hawkers, MSMEs, so the bottom of the pyramid, which is a very large base, has been looked at. Second, the government has used this to make sure compliance becomes easy, whether it is the insolvency procedure of going to 1 crore and being lenient and no new cases being taken, whether it's about tax being TDS PF relaxation. Third is about MSME specifically. Now the MSME sector is a very big sector. It employs a very large number of people, and dare I say, it's a feeder to the large companies. It's like the backbone of the economy. The MSME sector has got a lot. There's a lot that needs to be done, but let's be grateful for what we got. Fourth, the government has used this to make sure states, which are at the forefront of dealing with epidemic, get more credit because their own revenues. You have to keep in mind that the government had very little fiscal way, and with this pandemic in the last 2 months, government's normal revenues are also hurt.
Okay.
So for the states, and last but not the least, government has used this time to do big bang reform. The 76% in defense, the coal blocks, because energy is a big, we spend about 2.5 lakh crore in importing coal. So, that will happen here. Similarly in defense. So what I want to say to my colleagues, I know that the hospitality industry employs 53 million people.
Yes.
There's 53 million. So it's a very large employer.
It's a huge job creator. It's a huge job creator, which is why they're disappointed. Okay, but you're obviously bullish about the reforms as well, because the government has used this opportunity to push through those reforms, which otherwise would have perhaps got stuck because of political pressure. So that's a big positive, according to you.
And Uday, I say most of the entrepreneurs in this panel have built their businesses without any government intervention. Industrialists. So, while it is good to expect the government to help, in the past they were able to build their businesses on their own.
Yeah.
I know now is unusual and the entrepreneurs need support, and I think the government should do more and will do more, but we must be grateful for what has come.
That's a good point. Okay, let me bring in Mr. Ramesh as well at this point. Dr. Ramesh V. Penumaka joining us as well. Dr. Ramesh, welcome. Sir, your initial observations, your first takeaways from the stimulus package. What all has gone right? What all are the positives? What all are you bullish about? And then we'll of course get to what all could have still been added in just a second as well.
Thanks for having me. Good evening to everyone. Now, I think this is a very timely intervention. We are still in the midst of a pandemic. We do not know the contours and the dynamics in which it will progress. We are in the midst of a lockdown. So I would like to believe that what has been announced is certainly would make a substantial difference to the economy, to those who are vulnerable, particularly in the key sectors of the economy. It certainly kickstart MSMEs. I mean, there's been a lot in that. For me, power sector is an extremely important intervention. With the discoms are deeply stressed, and that has had knock-on effect down the line. There's certain liberalizations given to the defense industry and some of those major stimulus for the investment promotion, because this is one of those, and then particularly also expanding the fiscal space for the state, which again is conditional. I mean, is not an unconditional expansion. So this is actually an amalgam of stimulus with a very clear agenda, a strategy for reform, institutional change, and also flexibility to respond to the situation. Particularly, this has a focus also on those who are most vulnerable, whether it's a migrant labor, whether the social sector, the health and education support. So it really is a holistic package. I mean, people could always argue, could it have been better? Could there be more? I mean, these are rhetorical questions as we move forwards. I'm sure these would be adjusted, but I think
fair enough.
we're still in the midst of the pandemic.
Point taken. Let's try and get back Rahul if we can. Rahul, if I think
and Mr. Yashwant Nag is there also waiting.
Yeah, I'll just get him back as well. Rahul, yeah.
Sure. See, basically, we have to see the fundamentals of the economy to judge the merits or demerits of the package. The economy runs on 4 wheels of demand, supply, capital, and labor. So currently with COVID, what has happened is that demand has been sucked out, supply has been obliterated, and capital is not looking at returns, it's just looking at protection. And the big issue is that labor has been left facing unemployment. So effectively, we are looking at the 4-wheeled car of the economy getting transformed into a bicycle. So if I look at the package, in the current form, of the 4, it's effectively addressing capital concerns, that too on the banking and the regulatory side, to ease up liquidity in the system and to enhance or improve the processes of, getting liquidity easier. However, what is critical is that we get our act together, and instead of just it being a banking and a liquidity stimulus, what is needed is a stimulus thinking, how are we going to enhance demand? What are we going to do to support supply? And what are we going to do for labor? Now, if I was to look at the travel, tourism and aviation industry in itself, which employs 5 crore people, and 250 million Indians are dependent on it. So imagine the cost of the social unrest if 250 million Indians were left to fend for themselves. Coming specifically to see what is it that other countries have done, if you were to take a look at example UK, which has started its coronavirus job scheme guarantee, where effectively up to 80% of the wages of the employees are being assured. And the reason Sri Sunak is doing it, so that instead of the government doing a double transmission, first injecting something, then getting the benefits passed on back, if you let the benefits be in the hands of the consumer, you are still maintaining the tax chain up.
No, I've taken your point. I'll come back to you in just a second. I just want to quickly get in all our guests for their opening comments. Yashwant Nag also with us on the broadcast, founder of Thick Shake Factory. Welcome, Yashwant. Your initial observations, your first comments on the stimulus which has been announced. What are the positives for you? What are the opportunities right now for our country?
Thank you, Uday. So this entire thing is kind of the man-made crisis, because the economic situation is purely man-made, specifically government-made. So it is completely in the hands of the government to rectify it and move it forward. So it is, we must understand that they have the power to set the entire economy in motion, and all it needs to do is to make them help put a structure in the first place. So as we were discussing, 40% of Indian retail consumption is actually affected by this, and 10% of the entire GDP is completely stressed by this. And specifically, retail sector contributes to more than 46 million jobs in India, and also the restaurant industry, which contributes even more. So there was a need to present an immediate package, which was unfortunately missing in this entire package. And also there was unfortunately no mention of micro F&B restaurant operators as part of the defined MSME norms. So it is very severely disappointing. Of course, there are a lot of opportunities that may open up, but there is going to be a huge disruption. 75,000 crores is the amount of loans that is resting on lease rental discounting mechanism. So the real estate developers have received 75,000 crore loans from banks, whereas the government has not provided a moratorium to them. Obviously, they will find it extremely challenging to provide retailers like us rental reliefs, and in turn, this will lead to heavy disruption and job losses across sectors. So it is imperative that the government realizes it now. 3 months may be very late from now.
All right, I'm going to take a very short break.
One point I want to make
Yeah.
to Rahul's comment.
Yeah.
Rahul, let's not come. I mean, it's good to know what's happening in UK, and the formula that Rishi Sunak is using is right, and the approach is right. But I think you have to look at where we are. India needs a unique solution. The government's revenues are, whether because there is sales have been impacted. You may say that the oil was cheap, but there was no travel services. Oil was not being purchased. So the economy was not running. So the government's coffers in 2 months have been weak. Now you may say that the government has to take fiscal measures to increase demand. The government may not want demand at this point. For the next 30 days, government may know. We don't want people to go out and start shopping like it is back to normal. So my hunch is, as I said, this is installment A, there will be an installment B, there will be an installment B, C, and if I understand it right, for the next 6-12 months, the government will continue to do things which impact. Yes, I agree that the hospitality industry and the QSR industry.
We're going to look at that. We're going to look at that after this break. I'm taking a very short break. After that, we'll throw it open to the panel on what is missing. What are their expectations now? What all could have been done? What all still can be done? And we'll also get Anurag Batra to take a few questions from some of our panelists. Let's now jump straight into the panel discussion. Everyone, please feel free to come in when you want to. I know Sagar has to leave us in a short bit, so I want to go straight across to you, Sagar. What more should be done by the government? What more can be done still, and now what all should industry do themselves as well? Because obviously industry works and has been doing well despite the government. So what all does industry also need to do in the days ahead to lead this India's charge to become a superpower?
See, the ground reality is that this is a really tough time for the food and beverage sector. Many of your favorite restaurants are not going to reopen again, after this lockdown comes in. So many of the major chains, your favorite restaurants, have sent their employees on leave without pay. They don't have the cash flows to open up again. So these are really tough times. You're going to see a lot of bloodbath out there, a lot of restaurants not opening up. So really sad times. Now we represent the food and beverage sector. Now, the Prime Minister of our country, like Yashwant said, was a chai wala, right? He was from the beverage sector. हमारे को खाना खिलाना आता है, चाय पिलाना आता है, और हमारी इंडस्ट्री को अगर बचाना है तो a lot needs to be done. Like I said, two of our major costs. One was labor, which I spoke about. The second is real estate. Now, if you look at what the government has offered via RERA for the real estate developers who are constructing malls, etc., they've declared a force majeure for them for the constructing properties, right? Now, had the government just been more clean and declared a force majeure for the current properties also, then the landlords would not have asked us to or forced us to pay rentals, and the retailers would have had more clarity. Now, problem now is that there's a lot of ambiguity, So the landlord, the developers are giving an invoice to us saying कि आप हमारा rent भर दो, लेकिन हम rent कैसे भरेंगे? अगर हमारा धंधा ही नहीं होगा, हम कुछ business ही नहीं करेंगे, तो हम कैसे rent भरेंगे? मतलब, how do we pay these?
Okay, so you need a bailout. There's no other way, is what you're saying. But are you prepared? Are you prepared?
In clear words, we need a force majeure to be declared.
Yes. Are you prepared though for the new normal? If we talk about your restaurants, are you prepared for the new normal in the days ahead? Right now, of course, you're permitted to do takeaways immediately in states that allow you and districts that allow you to. But are you prepared for the new normal? Is eating out going to change?
I think eating out is going to change to a large extent. It's all about hashtag social distancing, hashtag contactless. You will see a lot of social distancing happening within restaurants. You will see an 80-seater restaurant becoming a 40-seater restaurant. You will see social distancing happening in the kitchens. A 15 crew member kitchen will become a 10 crew member kitchen, a more compact menu. You will see surveillance of hygiene happening. Before you enter every restaurant, there will be a checking of your temperature. So a lot of new now is going to come into place. Deliveries become the new now. I think pre-order takeaway is going to become the new now. That's going to, take away a lot of cover up for the dining business. But yeah, you'll see we were already known for health, hygiene, happiness. It is not that the COVID came and taught us about health, hygiene, happiness, but you will see more awareness there. You will see more investment happening in the health sector and more restaurants investing more in hygiene. Now, what happens when we start doing social distancing in our restaurants and reducing covers, our rentals are not going to come down, right? So life is going to be very, very difficult out there. And that is why I insist on a lot of more measures to come front. The government has to be more upfront towards our sector. I'm surprised it wasn't announced in the first phase, but I'm, like Anurag sir said, ummeed pe duniya kayam hai. I am hoping something will be announced for us sooner than later.
Right. Well, I know I am, and I know a lot of people are missing a good momo. So let's hope you're up and running very soon. But Anurag Batra, you have any specific question for Sagar before we let him go?
Sagar, I just want to say that aren't the landlords more compassionate and also realistic? That if the establishment goes on for the next 12, 14, 24 months and things come back, they still make more money from you than they would, because it's not possible that they'll get a new landlord, a new tenant ASAP. So aren't landlords more flexible?
I think they
I have come across landlords who are very flexible. They give
they want to be flexible, but the problem is that they all have the pressures of EMIs. They all have the pressures of loans. Now, problem is that many of these landlords have borrowed money from NBFCs. Now, NBFCs have got no waiver from the government. It's only limited to banks. Now, all these big malls, these big property developers, they have tons and tons of money borrowed from NBFCs. Now, if NBFC does not get any relief, the landlords don't get any relief, the developers don't get any relief. So, it's actually not the retailer versus the developer. There are four parties involved with this: the retailer, the developer, the government, and the banks. I think they all four need to work together. I think honestly, both the retailers as well as the landlords want to work together. But the problem is that, it's becoming iski topi uske sir, and that is becoming a big challenge. So, they are forced to pay their bank EMIs, and then they are forced to raise invoices to us. But today, I cannot go and raise an invoice and just, give it to any Tom, Dick and Harry standing on the road, ki mera momo kha lo, because there's no one on the road. It is lockdown, and that's the reality.
Okay. Thank you, Sagar, for joining us on the broadcast. I do know you have to leave, so thank you for joining us. Let's go across now. I think Rahul had a point to make before we took a break. Yes, Rahul, go ahead. Jump in.
Yeah. See, I think we need now a $25 billion rescue fund to protect the 50 million jobs and the 250 million dependents on our sector. This fund, it can be structured as a 30% grant over the next 4 quarters, and then a linked 70% soft loan, which could be LIBOR plus 1 or 2% over the next 4 quarters, with a 2-year moratorium and a 5-year payback, with future warrants for the government to acquire equity in such companies. And at effectively 0.9% of the GDP, this to me is an essential pill to swallow the nightmare of $250 million Indians who would otherwise be left to fend for themselves.
Okay, that point taken. Let's get the rest to also jump in if they want to on now. Expectations on what all you want from the government, what all they can practically do, what all you hope they can still do despite this 20 lakh crore not being allocated to you for now. Ashish, do you want to jump in there? You will have to unmute yourself first, Ashish. Yeah,
thanks, Uday. All right. I'll structure your question into 2 parts. And the first part is, what is the problem here we are facing? And since you're talking about a tourism, travel and hospitality industry, the biggest problem that the industry is facing is of cash inflow. There is no cash effectively, and this is the situation which is going to be for the next 12 to 15 months. Be it the inbound segment, be it the domestic segment, be it the travel outbound segment, the corporate segment, meeting segment, the adventure, heritage, all of them have arrived at a travel freeze because people are not going to travel till the time they feel safe. So if there is no cash inflow, then what is the situation? The situation is that the cash outflow has to be preserved or protected. Now, what are the 3 key sources of cash outflows for the tourism industry? Number 1 and the foremost is employee salaries. The second are statutory obligations to the central and the state government. And the third are banking payments. So let me quickly come to the banking payments. RBI had given the moratorium for 3 months. We would request that to be extended to 12 months without any compounding of the interest. So it's a complete moratorium and interest as well, and no interest compounding. Second, on the statutory obligations, we request the government that they coordinate at the state level also, and both the central and all the state governments need a complete stop the clock on all statutory obligations, be it on GST, be it on taxes, provident fund, ESI, fixed power tariffs, fixed utility tariffs. The very logic is that how can industry pay when there is no cash? And now, as Rahul said, the most critical thing, which is the salaries. The industry needs to keep standing. And for that, it's very important for the government to carve out, like the way they have carved out for discounts, to carve out a special tourism COVID-19 fund. And I would probably structure it a bit differently. Maybe one option is what Rahul suggested. I would say we need to create a long-term 10-year loan, a slow loan with principal only payment and without any interest payment. It needs to be interest and collateral free, which ensures that all tourism, travel, hospitality enterprises, be it a tour operator, a tourist transporter, travel agent, hotel, can draw it as per their requirement to keep their organization up and running. And for any demand to be created, the foremost thing is the supply needs to keep standing.
Okay.
And if a supply falls, how will we ever service any demand? So I think these are the first aspect of the survival request we have requested the government. And as Anurag rightly said, we are hopeful that after the first
Yashwant, your expectations. You're of course a member of the F&B industry as well. Yes, your expectations.
Thanks, Uday. So first of all, as I was saying in my opening remarks, the industry has got a sense of disbelief, because 50 to 60% of the restaurants in India are going to shut down in the next 6 months. Please listen to me carefully. Next 180 days, 50 to 60% of the restaurants in India are going to shut down if the government is not going to do anything about it. The question is whether the government wants to do something about it or not. If they want to do, there are enough number of channels wherein they can structure this 20 lakh crore fiscal package that they have announced to clearly define who is responsible, who is eligible for getting this, schemes, and what exactly are the measures. So, the Prime Minister, as we were just discussing, the Prime Minister himself is a chaiwala. From a chai thela on the road to a 7-star hotel in India, everyone are part of the food and beverages industry. Every thela guy to chaiwala to a 7-star or a 5-star hotel in India is part of the retail and F&B industry. 50% of the jobs in India are indirectly or directly part of this industry. So it is a sense of shock and disbelief that the hospitality, restaurant and real estate people are in looking at the scheme of the package that is announced, because there is nothing clear about it and nobody has any clarity and nobody knows whether they're going to get effect. I mean, it is nobody knows how to avail anything right at this point of time. Okay. So it is just a sense of disbelief that the QSR, F&B, hospitality industry are at this point of time.
Dr.
So if the government
Ramesh,
is really serious about it, now is the time.
Dr. Ramesh, you made that point earlier that sometimes there are too many expectations from the government. There's only a limited amount that the government can do. As you've been a bureaucrat yourself, your practical view on what all realistically is feasible right now for some of the sectors which are the most affected, which are, hospitality, restaurants, and of course also aviation. That's another one which is also bleeding currently. So what can the government, practically speaking, do for those sectors right now? What all is achievable and what all right now is out of reach, which some of our panelists and others watching the show should not and cannot hope for? Give them a practical view, sir.
Thank you. I mean, let me step back. I think there's a lot of anxiety as well as concern about a whole host of things. I think everyone in this world, it's not just the Indians and not just 6 of us. I think everyone has a concern about what happens to their future, their children, their families. Now, let's see, notwithstanding the fact 8 weeks have lapsed, this is a pandemic that's going to be with us likely to be with us for a long time from all indications. And what really is required, number one, is a more comprehensive strategy and a uniform standards for monitoring the disease. I mean, let me complete this, then I'll come to your question, because I think this is very important, that so that we can assess the trajectory and the direction of the disease as it is progressing in different parts of the country, and then respond effectively Now, this is an important aspect I believe the government still needs to do in terms of setting the standards, the uniform standards for reporting, for measurement, for monitoring, for responding. This is number one. Number two is the action has to be very local. And the smaller the unit, it's going to be more important. And I would like to believe that what's most vulnerable now are those who are returning back, these migrant laborers who are moving across the nation in thousands, hundreds of thousands of them. And second is the urban slums to which we have paid little attention over several decades. There is no public health system that exists in the urban areas, barring few old metropolitan cities. Now, these are areas which are yet to really receive the type of attention they receive. Because I'm saying this because these are all tinder boxes. We are concerned about everyone is concerned, but I think unless we address them, there can be an explosive outcome in the coming days. So this is, I think, is what we need to recognize. Number two is that this is a disease that has made no difference. It has impacted the government as much as the business, as much as the industry, as much as the poor. I think everyone across the spectrum, this has made no difference in terms of the impact in terms of the demand, the supply, and the entire engines of the economy. Now, the government does not have huge fiscal space in order to address the concerns of each and every sector. I think first and foremost, it's important to recognize this new reality that the world as we had known in the pre-22nd March perhaps is changed for some time to come. We need to live with a new re-entry reality, and the re-entry into our own businesses, our own workspace would have to be conducted in a very different manner. These dynamics would be very different. So each of these businesses would have to work out, and instead of looking for bailouts from the government, I think the government has done an enormous amount of thinking and action in terms of actually coming forwards with this 20 lakh crore stimulus package, which broadly covers all the
Point taken. Let me go back to Dr. Batra. Dr. Batra,
can I tell you, Uday,
yes.
I said right at the start, India culturally is like this, that entrepreneurs, promoters, large businessmen don't want to come on a credible national news channel like NewsX and say, criticize the government. Yashwant is young, Sagar is young, so they're speaking their mind.
No, that's fantastic. It's important to be candid.
But let me tell you, because the government does appreciate good feedback and government acts on feedback, and the government has been acting. Let me tell you, privately, captains of the industry are not happy with the package. Today, what happened on the stock market is some indication of that. So they expect more from the government. Whether the expectation is a right expectation, wrong expectation, I want to say.
Were you surprised at that, Dr. Batra? The market tanked today. That's a very important point you just raised. The market tanked today. Interesting, the markets were shut on Saturday and Sunday. Ms. Sitharaman chose to announce two of the tranches on Saturday and Sunday.
No, I was not surprised. On Saturday when the package came, yesterday when at 11 o'clock, Nirmala Sitharaman ji and Anurag ji shared the new details on PSU reform, because those are a little long term. See, what the government is doing is addressing the short term, medium and long term. But in the short term, the industry players expect more. They expect immediate. They expect, if I may use the word, front loading of reforms. They want it to happen from tomorrow morning. They want, the industry wants money to come into them so that they can survive. And in some way, it's good for the government because the industry survives. We pay tax. It helps government coffers. It helps country. It helps jobs. So the industry professionals, entrepreneurs, business people, industrialists are not happy. That's the sentiment as of today, that this is good, but we were expecting more. Now, they also have they understand the government has limitation in terms of its fiscal leeway. And one of the things the government in conversation about fiscal stimulus is, the credit rating agencies will downgrade you. I don't think at this stage we should worry too much about credit rating agencies. They have anyway downgraded us in the past.
Okay.
I think we should worry about what will happen to our entrepreneurs, what will happen to jobs, and if in the next 3-4 months we are able to keep them in business, I think we will bounce back better.
Okay.
In a better position to take on the world.
Okay.
Then the Prime Minister vision of being self-reliant and being globally competitive will really become and as I said, I'm sure the government will do. This is the first step and it's substantial. Whether the industry is happy, not happy, but it is substantial and it is a reality that some sectors like travel, hospitality, QSR, they're not at all mentioned. There's no, so clearly they feel left out as taxpayers, as citizens of the country, as entrepreneurs. I think the next package or the next announcement will factor that in.
Okay, let me quickly go now across to Ashish. Ashish has a quick point to make, and then I think Anurag Batra may have a couple of specific questions for some of our other panelists. Yes, Ashish, go ahead.
Yes, thank you for inviting me back first. And I want to agree both with Anurag. I said I agree. Government has been very, very forthcoming in meeting with us and taking feedback. And now I want to slightly disagree with Mr. Ramesh. I think these are unconventional times. And we should not be so concerned about fiscal deficit. We require a very uncharacteristic, a very ambitious program to support the supply. Because if we can't support the supply, and we have to fund that kind of a program to support the supply through a special structured funding program. And this is, as the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister said, Atmanirbhar. Tourism is the sector where India is the next destination, be it domestic tourism or inbound tourism. To support the vision of the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, tourism made in India, is the key. And for that, we require our supply to keep standing, and the government has to create a special focus, not to be concerned overly with fiscal deficit, because all that will get resolved if the tourism industry is taken care of. And I would also finally put in a small point that if we do not take care of industry, we'll be undoing the biggest damage to the post-independence tourism sector, which we have carefully built up over the years.
Okay.
So our special request,
Dr. Batra,
the government.
Dr. Batra, and a couple of specific questions you want to
I just want to ask, I want to ask only one question to all our panelists. If you had to suggest to the Finance Minister one thing that you need from the government, just one, that your sector, you as an entrepreneur, needs?
The F&B sector right now needs two things. One is creating a situation with the landlords to ensure that the rentals are waived off, enforcing force majeure. But of course, protecting the interests of the landlords also by giving banks the right to give them a moratorium for the next 9 months. Number one. Number two would be providing collateral-free loans for paying salaries of people for the next 3 months. These would be our ask as an industry, so that people don't lose jobs overnight. 40 to 50% of Indian jobs are hanging on to this small initiative by the government. 40 to 50% of jobs can be protected, or else 6 months down the line, it will discuss.
57 million jobs in the QSR sector.
Absolutely. So 6 months down the line, we'll be having this discussion of how the economy could have been saved. That's all are my remarks.
Okay.
Okay, Rahul, one thing. You already said we should set up a fund that really focuses on this sector, but beyond that, and look at the constraints of the government, look at the uniqueness of our country.
Sure. See, before I come to the one thing that you were saying, if we look at the intent, even if I look at Sri Modi's inaugural speech when he came in, he set 5 key pointers for India, which actually today link to what he is speaking of, Atmanirbhar. He said India needs trade, talent, travel, technology and tradition. Now, what you are saying, I agree that this may only be phase 1, but the government has to understand that the citizens are not clairvoyant. If there is a roadmap being made to give an assurance to say that, hey, this was done only for liquidity. Now we are going to look at other steps that will also address the supply side and the demand and labor, and it will take us X weeks, then the industry would be reassured. Because what you spoke of the market is trying to decipher from each action, because these moments are not linked to fundamental moments. Now, besides setting up the rescue fund, it is critical for us to be doing 2 things immediately, or to announce that intent First is that it's a time where we need to be restructuring loans. There has to be a one-time restructure, which could be moratorium and then a balloon repayment. And then the second is to support jobs, like in the US with the airline sector. It's not only guarantor of jobs, but also of national importance. Similarly, airlines, hospitality, travel, tourism, there has to be a guarantee of protecting minimum wages at different levels. So these two items would generate huge confidence in the industry and also citizens across the country.
Ashish, and then we'll get Mr. Prasad last. Ashish, you represent the faith, which is, I hope the faith that the faith has in the government is kind of met
Yeah,
with.
Anurag, thank you. No, we have complete faith in the government, and thank you for the question. I would urge the government that this is the time to support on cash flows. The disruptive steps can always be taken.
So what are
This
those?
is
So how to
yes, so,
support the cash flows?
Yes, so I would request 4 steps. 4 steps. Number 1, we require immediately a survival fund, and we can discuss the mechanics of that to support salaries and operating costs. Number 2, we require the central government to waive off all statutory obligations for 12 months without any penal interest. We know there's a fiscal implication of that, but that's required to be done. And so as to urge the state government also to do that. And number 3, request the RBI to defer so have a moratorium for 12 months without any penal interest. And most importantly, a special request to the Prime Minister: can we put up a National Tourism Council under the Prime Minister with the Chief Ministers and all state and all cabinet ministers, a fully empowered tourism committee to take decisions on the spot on the lines of GST Council, a National Tourism Council headed by the PM, and not an advisory body. Thank you.
You know, Ashish, I just want to say that is on in terms of what we have to do on TDS, PF, on taxes. If the government gives it to one industry, it has to do it for everyone. So it's it's not about one sector. Then it will have to be uniform. If the government does, then it has to be for everyone. It cannot. I'm sure you understand. It cannot be for one sector, right? So you can understand the magnitude of your request, because if it's done for one sector, then it will need to be done for everyone. So, Mr. Prasad, last word. What do you think the government will do in the future? What are the things? While you said we know there is a fiscal leeway which is very tight, what can the government do, and do you think will do over the next 3 months?
You're asking me, I'm Ramesh anyway.
So sorry, Ramesh.
No,
Yes.
no issues. No issues. I mean, the government certainly, first of all, has to address the immediate measures while keeping in mind the medium and the longer term. I think we all need to recognize the reality that it is going to be a difficult time, not just for us, for the world as a whole. Perhaps this is the biggest disruption that we or our parents' generation has seen. Let's recognize that as a reality, and then let's not have unreasonable expectations from any source for that matter, because everyone is together in the same boat. That's number one. Having said that, I would like to propose that both the state governments and the central governments need to look at set up a task force for different economic drivers and key industries and the services sector, with both the public as well as the private participation, to really come up with key recommendations for the short term, medium term, and the long term, which we continuously review whether it's working or not, what's its upside, what's its downside, because unless there's a continuous engagement and dialogue of all stakeholders of this economy, which includes, of course, the labor, the agriculture, everyone. And I think that dynamism is required. The third is the governments also need to look at its own revenue expenditure. And I think this is the time to really review and reduce some of the unnecessary expenditures, including the non-merit goods. And I think we need to focus on that as well.
Okay.
And I have the fourth point, which I think is important. I agree with Rahul. There's a need for restructuring of the loans.
Okay.
And
We're
deferment.
completely out of time. I think that was a great last word from all of you, which Dr. Anurag Batra asked specifically, that what's one big expectation that our panelists, of course, have from the government. Let's certainly hope that there will be some more relief in sight. But otherwise, of course, the industry, as Dr. Batra said earlier, has made us very proud, not because of the government, but because of their own efforts and own innovation. So let's hope that certainly continues, even in testing times like the ones we're currently in. We leave it at that. Thanks to all our panelists for joining us on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to our viewers as well for joining us on this special NewsX Business World panel.
Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.